The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello and good afternoon. Welcome to today's session on switching from paper-based exams to computer-based exams. I see we've got quite a bit of students joining in on the session, and it's encouraging to see, that a lot of you are keen on finding out how, things are progressing and how you can sort of, keep getting better and better at doing the computer-based exams now. You all know me as Tahir Kapasi, and again, like the previous session, I am joined on this session again by my colleague Alexander Leach, who is still in the UK right now. Alex and I will sort of co-host this session for you all this afternoon. We've kept the session slightly longer compared to what we would normally do. We would normally do an hour. We felt that the need of the hour actually was for us to be able to give you sufficient time for us to be able to give you enough download, because we're about 2 weeks away from the actual exam week, and this is the right time that you guys started thinking about how you sort of switch, literally, not just in terms of your mindset but also in terms of your skills and your ability in being able to do your strategic professional exams more likely as computer-based exams. Like we said, we know it's been quite a sudden change, and we realized that you've had to switch some amount of priority, some amount of direction onto the now preparing for your exams as computer-based exams. But again, like I've said always, it's not a major switch. Nothing changes tremendously. We will sort of look into what has changed and how you can support yourself in preparing for these exams in the upcoming slides. So just a few housekeeping rules before we begin. We expect to sort of conclude the entire session in about 90 minutes. Alex and I will sort of share our sections where we will be talking on different things. The slides obviously will be moving as we speak and present. If you find that the slides are not moving, or if you have difficulties in listening to us, or if there's any sort of technical issues, what I recommend is log out and log back in. Most cases it resolves the issue. We will have a dedicated Q&A session. The Q&A panel is onto your top left hand side of the screen. Feel free to shoot out your questions to us. We will have a dedicated session at the end of the presentation where we will be picking up all your questions and answering them as we go along. So without sort of wasting any further time, let's get cracking with today's session. And what do you expect to see today? Welcome and updates. I will be sharing some key updates with you around the exams and what is happening, the comms, what should have happened. We've already gone past the deadlines of the re-registration, etc. Moving into what are the student support resources that are available for you. So we've made a whole host of resources available for our students to help you prepare for your transition. We will be looking at some of those resources in a short while. We will also be taking you through the CBE practice platform, which Alex and I both think, or rather as ACCA, the organization thinks, is one of the most critical and the most important resource that all of you as students need to start incorporating. It doesn't matter if you're an applied skills student or you're a strategic professional level student. Every student can use the CBE practice platform. It's all about getting hands-on, getting more used to the environment, the exam platform, and becoming more and more confident about using it. We will also be looking at an actual sort of strategic professional or a CBE exam. Alex, my colleague, will take you through a specimen exam, giving you an insight of how the exam is going to look, what are some of the key tips, some shortcuts, where you can find information, where you can find additional help, etc. We will close off with a dedicated video that the professional education teams in the UK has produced around how do you manage your strategic professional CBE exams and the workspace, plus the dedicated Q&A section where we will offer you the opportunity to ask questions, and we will try our best to answer all your questions as we possibly can. So I know you've already taken the decision, and a lot of you might have decided, well, yes, if it is going to be as computer-based exams, that's how it's going to be, and that's how we will accept it, which is quite positive, which is very encouraging. We are very happy and pleased to see that students are very confidently, without having a lot of hesitation, moved and rebooked their exams. I was particularly quite sort of impressed to see the number of you that have re-registered to sit a strategic professional exams as remotely invigilated exam in Oman and Kuwait, particularly when you know that these will be offered as computer-based exams rather than paper-based exams. So it's all about thinking ahead, and computer-based exams is nothing new or isn't quite sudden. We've always been thinking about this. You all have been informed time and again. We've been mentioning that we will be introducing the entire sort of set of exams that we have on the ACCA qualification will slowly keep moving to becoming computer-based exams, and that's how the world is. Digital is definitely the way forward. Everything literally we do has been digitalized so much now. Things like, even now as you listen to us, sitting miles away from where we are right now, Alex is sitting miles away in the UK, I'm here in the Dubai office, y'all are somewhere in Oman or Kuwait. We're all still connected. We're still being able to pass on information. This is how the future is. Why would we, this is how the modern workplace is designed, and that's how current day accounting and finance professionals work. So why do we, sort of take exams in the old-fashioned way? It's all about, thinking ahead and getting in line with, what is coming up. I know, you've already sort of bought in, you've already decided to do your exams as CBEs. Now just wanted to highlight a few benefits that obviously have sort of transpired when we initially started making these switches for our applied skills level. In fact, some of you might have already even experienced CBEs and will probably make sense of everything that I'm going to talk on this slide, in terms of your experience of doing a actual computer-based exam. So, in all, it's a much better exam experience. Everything is available to you on a click of a few buttons. It's all on one screen there. You don't have to flick through practical, sort of set of pages in order to read your question. It's all there. You can, navigating is quite easy. The tools are all built in. It also is quite easier to sort of, edit and present your answers. No more messy scribbles. So presenting your answer becomes a lot more easier, and it also becomes a lot more easier for the marker, the ones that are actually marking your answers, your scripts. Imagine, in my old days, when I used to sort of sit and do these exams, sometimes I used to sort of make an error. What would I do if I've made a major mistake? Scribble out everything, or maybe do scribbles in between of an answer. Imagine having to mark, such a script which has got scribbles here and there, and it's not structured. Imagine what kind of psychological effect does it have on the marker. You already lose out on some key, at least the professional marks or the presentation marks that are available on every exam. So, with introducing CBEs, exams on CBEs, a lot of these issues have been resolved. Students are more sort of efficient at managing their time. So, with using spreadsheets and word functionality, being able to edit answers quickly, you tend to save a lot of time, especially with questions that involve numbers and numerical. I remember when I was doing my old the P2 exam, which is now the strategic business reporting exam. There was a lot of calculation involved. A lot of exams had calculation. I remember sitting on one side on a desk, sort of typing numbers on a calculator, and then looking at them and doing my workings on a paper, and then writing with my right hand. And it used to consume a lot of time. Now, when you've got spreadsheets and when you've got the luxury of using spreadsheets, there's absolutely no need for anyone to actually go and use a calculator. The use of your calculator becomes very minimal when you've got spreadsheets. Even when you do exams like the financial management exam or your advanced financial management exams, things like NPV, IRR, all of those can actually be calculated with complex formulas, with advanced formulas. So if you sort of upskilled yourselves up, or if you had your spreadsheet skills upgraded, you can actually, you don't even need a scientific calculator to solve NPV, IRR type questions. You can actually literally do them using the spreadsheet functionality. So there's a whole lot of benefits of moving exams as CBs, and you will, I'm sure, if you haven't experienced this before, you will definitely experience this when you actually sit and do your computer-based exams now. So let's look at what are the resources available to you. And as ACCA, we do our best to make sure that all our stakeholders, whether it is our students or whether it is our tutors who actually prepare or help our students, or we have enough resources in place to help support them with the transition, with moving from one mode of doing exams to another mode, or any change, anything, even if it is just related to you successfully passing your exams. We make sure that we have enough resources in place that are available to you as ACCA students for absolutely no additional cost, for free, just so that you can prepare yourselves better for your upcoming exams. Likewise, we produced a lot of resources. So you know that there is a dedicated resource section on ACCA's website, accglobal.com, under the study support resource section. We produced a lot of resources for strategic professional CBEs, or rather CBE support, exams that are run by computer-based on computer-based platforms. So let's have a look at some of those resources. So what are available to you? So there's things like dedicated videos that introduce strategic professional CBE exams, SBL and other exams as well. SBL exams, we produce different videos, slightly different, because the exam, the essence of the exam is slightly different. It's a case study type exam, so we've got to, we can't have the same video that we have for others. So there are various videos available. There's articles and guidances available on, how to sit your CBE exams, what the platform is like, what are some of the shortcuts that you can use, tips on word processor, tips on spreadsheets, etc. So those are all also available on the website for you to use. We've hosted a lot of webinars. So the professional education team in the UK, like we do this, webinar for you right now. The professional education teams in the UK have hosted a lot of webinars. You all know we've introduced strategic professional CBE exams across some countries and across some markets today. And students in the UK actually have sat some of these strategic professional exams as CBEs in the March exam this year. So, our professional education teams have developed a set of webinars, paper specific, in fact, that are also sort of run by expert tutor gurus. These are all people who are, very, very famous, the big names in sort of accounting, ACCA tutors in the past. I've been fortunate enough to study with some of them, sitting in their classrooms at some point in time, a couple of years ago in the UK, studying with them. So I can really vouch, and I can tell you how impressive they are and how impactful they are at being able to support their students through an exam. So I will 100% recommend, all of you to go in and look at these webinars. We will obviously be sharing links to all of these in our follow-up com once we've completed this session today. They're all available on demand for you to watch. There are CBE preparation videos, again, paper specific. These are produced by our professional education teams, again, which will help guide you with your exam preparation. There are also review of the March strategic professional CBE exam. So March was the very first time we hosted strategic professional exams as CBE in some markets across the globe. And what we've done is we've actually had lessons learned from those exams, and we've actually done webinars on where expert tutors come on and they guide students on what was right, what was wrong, what went wrong, somewhat more or less like the examiner's report, but this is more around the strategic professional CBEs and guidance and tips for any students who are looking at doing these exams in the future. And all other resources remaining the same. So you all know that we've got the usual resources such as the specimen exams, past exam papers, practice questions, and a whole host of resources that are available on ACCA's website. alongside these additional resources that we made available very recently. So there's a lot of resources available out there. This is a snapshot just to show that, you know, everything that I was reading through the previous slide is actually there. This is just a snapshot of, you know, what these resources look like, and when you get access to them, you know, what to expect, etc. So we will be sharing the links for these resources to you just later this evening, you know, after we've concluded the session today. Please do ensure that, you know, you log in and you go through all of these resources before you actually sit for your exam. They're quite essential, and they will really help you get those extra marks, or, you know, become successful at passing your strategic professional level exams, or, you know, any exams that you're doing in your examination journey. So with having gone through all of those resources, and again, one of the most important resource, like I mentioned earlier, is the CBE practice platform. We thought it would be a nice idea to sort of give you all a very in-depth tour of the CBE practice platform, where we will be talking to you about, you know, how you get access to the practice platform, what is available within the practice platform, what are the different functionalities and features involved, how can you actually benefit from the CBE practice platform. There's lots of you know, functionality. There's a lot of things available on there for you, for, you know, that'll help you for your own benefit, and that'll make your practicing more efficient. So I will be going through a couple of slides first, and then I will switch over and give you all a tour, a virtual tour of the CBE practice platform. I will be telling you about how you can get access to the practice platform and how you can go around it. So first and foremost, with your exams switching to computer-based, you know, there's not a lot that is changing here. You're still, in terms of your expectations and your examinable outcomes, your learning outcomes still stay the same. Your exam preparation is pretty much valid. The only thing that really changes is the way you do your exam, which is, again, instead of writing answers on a piece of paper with a pen, you will be typing them, you know, on a computer, using a laptop or a desktop with a keyboard and a mouse, etc. So that's the only thing. And in order for you to be able to be more confident, in order for you to overcome some of those initial fears or anxiety that you might have, there's one thing that can really help you achieve or be successful, which is question practice. It's all about building confidence, and we know this is, you know, a sudden change, and change is always not the most welcoming thing, but we've got to accept now that change is, you know, inevitable. Change is something that is the constant, you know, every time. We can't expect things to be the same. The world has changed tremendously, we've changed tremendously, and things that we do are going to be changing as well. So the only way for us to become more and more confident about doing our exams on computer-based platform is by doing question practice. The more questions you practice, you know, on the actual computer-based platform, the better it is. You can't be a student that sits there with a revision kit in your hand, flicking through the pages, reading the question, turning to the answer side, reading the answer, and be like, oh yeah, fine, I know this, yep, I know this, yep, I know this, fine, I'm going to be good with the exam. No, that does not work. That was a strategy that may have possibly worked in the previous years. It's not going to work anymore with the computer-based exams. What you need to do with the computer-based exams is really put in time to actually do the question on the platform and actually solve the question on the platform. What are the benefits of question practice? Helps with your technical knowledge, reinforces everything that you've done, gives you familiarity with the exam, so it builds that confidence. You know, you're not like a surprised person when you go into that exam and you sit on the computer and you're like, well, I'm only seeing this for the first time right now. What do I do? How do I do? Where do I get this information for? Where do I click here? What happens when I click there? Where are the requirements? Where are the exhibits, etc.? You know, it also helps you identify any knowledge gaps that you might have, track progress, and perfect your exam technique. I can't stress enough the importance of question practice, and the more question practice you put in, the better you're going to keep getting at it, and the better chances of passing, or in fact even scoring higher marks in your exams. The CBE practice platform will really help you become familiar with the exam software, firstly, because it replicates exactly the exam content, the look and feel, the functionality. It's all literally based on Pearson Views platform, and Pearson Views platform is what we use on the CBE practice platform. All the content that is available on there for free is ACCA based content, so students will have access to specimen exams, past exams, on the ACCA version. Now, this is the ACCA version of practice platform which students can get access to via their My ACCA accounts. There is going to be another version of practice platform that strategic, or our approved learning partners have access to. We've made this particular resource available to our learning partners also, because we think they can help their students much better with this. Learning partners, if they're using their version of CBE practice platform, they can actually put in questions on it, they can put in different tests in it, they can do a lot of things, they can register you as their own student, they can give you mock tests, they can give you practice tests and all of that. Once you've completed them, once you've submitted them, your tutors can actually mark them for you, can give you feedback. All of this is available as a separate package for ALPs as well, and it's all available for free again. Within the student specific practice platform, you still have all of these functionalities. You can self-mark your practice tests, your exams, or you can actually save them and submit them to a dedicated tutor to mark them for you and give you feedback. We will be looking at all of this in a couple of minutes now. So how do you basically get access to your practice platform? Now, you can either get access to it via your My ACCA account, or you get access to it via the ACCA global website. It's available on the study support resource section. When you go into the study support resource section, click on the ACCA qualification and click on the relevant exam that you're looking for. Within the learning and revision section, you'll see there is a particular part that says CBE question practice ACCA practice platform. You click there and it will take you into a next page, which will pretty much look somewhat like this. You can decide what you want to get access to, whether you want to do a specimen exam, you want to do a practice exam 1, 2. You press on it and it will take you to a login page, or you simply log into your own My ACCA account on the dashboard there, or under My Qualifications section. As you see here highlighted within the red box, you've got a separate sort of link to access or help you access the CBE practice platform. All you need to do in order to access the CBE practice platform is enter your your ACCA registration ID, create a short account, and then you get access to it. So you'd have to put in a password, and you'd have to have a username, which usually is your ACCA registration ID. So once you've done that, you get access to the CBE practice platform, and that becomes your access permanently. Now, it's about time for us to do a live walkthrough of the practice platform. So let me switch modes here and basically take you through the actual practice platform, which is right here. Okay. Just for confirmation, Alex, and wanting to make sure, are you able to see my screen here, and can you look at the practice platform, or are the slides still
perfect? No, so you've moved on to the practice platform, and you're able to access it. So all the way to go to you, Tahir.
Brilliant. Thanks a lot, Alex. And really, this is how this is how the practice platform will look. You've got to go through the login side. You've got to log in, and once you log into the actual practice platform, this is how your dashboard or the interface of the practice platform will look. As you can see, there are dedicated 4 sections, or 4 sort of 4 tabs, if you would like to know that. Under the home section, you have all the learning material that you would have assigned either to yourself, or if you're using the learning partners version, then if they've assigned you something, there will be sort of piling up under assigned material. So under assigned material, you would normally just see things that your learning partner or your tutor has assigned to you to complete. Under self-assigned material, like you can see here, I've got a couple of things that we've already assigned to ourselves on this account, on the test account here. So whatever you assign to your own self will be available here for you. The marking tab is pretty much sort of a tab that will help you. So once you've completed the practice test, or once you've completed a specimen exam, your it'll start appearing under the marking. It'll start appearing under the marking tab. You can go into the marking tab, and then you can start marking your specimen exam, or you can save it, or we'll go through some of those functionalities in a few seconds as well. Your results tab is pretty much once the marking is concluded, or once your tutor has marked your test or any exams that they might have assigned to you, they can access it, or you can, when you're doing your self marking, or once you've completed your self marking, you can access your previously marked exams or specimen exams or practice tests under the results tab. In the performance tab, you will obviously be able to see how your performances has been on different subjects and different practice tests or specimen exams. It's a very interesting platform, and within the performance section, you'll be able to see very intelligent graphs and statistics that'll tell you, for instance, this is what you scored in the first practice test you did on SPL, and then your score was slightly higher and then slightly higher, and it'll give you a graph of your progress and all of that. So very intuitive platform, quite intelligent. It'll give you a lot of information, and above all, it's going to give you that experience that you would normally have when you sat an actual computer-based exam. So let's look at a few functionalities, and before we look at the functionalities in detail, there's always help and guidance available. I would like to particularly point out to one of the guidance area, which is if you see the question mark here, if you click on it, this is where everything that I'm going to talk through is available here. Again, an overview of the practice platform, how things are covered, how to administer, how to create, how to assign yourself tests, marking, all the information on marking, how you can do marking, how you can receive marks, feedback, tracking your performance, support, student frequently asked questions. These are all available to you here, right, on the practice platform. Remember, you've just got to click on this question mark. There's a notifications panel as well. So if there are any sort of content or any material that has been assigned to you by your tutors or your lecturers, they will be available to you. You'll probably get notifications on the notifications tab. So anything that you need in terms of support or help around the practice platform, any information that you need is very much available under the questions and the frequently asked questions, etc. And it's pretty much available out there for you. Let's look at the home tab now and how you can basically start assigning yourself material. So like I said, if you're using an ALP version, or literally what happens is, you might have your own version of the practice platform, but if your ALP has assigned you as a dedicated student studying with them, then basically the two platforms will merge, and you will be able to, because they would have added your ACCA registration ID, the system would know that this is the same person, has an existing access or account to practice platform, and it will merge. So anything that your ALP then gives you in terms of tests or content will start populating here. If you don't have an ALP version, or you're just using your own version of practice platform, then everything that you add will start appearing under the self-assigned material. You could see obviously that we've assigned a couple of things here. So there's a blank workspace that is being assigned here. There is a audit and assurance specimen exam which we assigned to ourselves here while we were doing a bit of fiddling on the practice platform. There's also an SBL specimen exam, which we've assigned to ourselves over here. I may have actually done some parts of this specimen exam also, just to show you how the marking functionality works. So let's look at how to assign and unassign tests and things like that. So we'll try and add a test here to the self-assigned material. And let's pick up a subtopic. These are all available under the catalog here section. So basically your catalog is all the questions or the specimen exams or the practice tests that are available here. They're obviously divided by, you know, the exams, and these are all listed in alphabetical order. So, you know, don't stop panicking if you don't see your applied skill exams. They're all there. We just sort of listed them in alphabetic order. So let's try and add a advanced financial management exam here. So what you do is you go into the catalog side here, you click on advanced financial management, and obviously there's going to be a further drop down. You see there's an option where we have the blank workspace as well as the ACCA official resources. Now, if you wanted to look at the ACCA official resources, you just simply click on the plus here, and you get a further drop down which will say past exams or specimen exams. Let's try and actually add a past exam, and you'll see there are all the different past exams are available or listed under here. All you have to simply do is, depending on which exam you want to sort of assign to yourself, for instance, and illustrative purposes, we will try and assign ourselves the December 2018 past exam, and you click on assign. And if you go into the self-assigned material, you scroll down, you'll see that it starts appearing here for you. So your advanced performance management exam, your advanced financial management exam that we've assigned to ourselves has started appearing here. When you start assigning exams and specimens to yourself, they will obviously start populating here. If you don't want an exhaustive list over here, all you do is you go back into the catalog, and you simply, so for example, we've assigned ourselves the audit insurance specimen exam here. If I want to remove that, I have managed to get through my audit and assurance exam. I no longer need to see that there. You simply go in, you click on the plus, and you click on the ACCA official resources. We had a specimen exam added over there. You click on specimen exam, and you'll see this has already been assigned. You click on unassign, and you come out, and you will notice that the audit and assurance specimen exam is no longer available for you to view under your assigned material. So that's how you basically assign and unassign content to yourself on the practice platform. Now, another interesting thing that we have here is the blank workspaces. And again, the blank workspaces are you know, pretty much categorized according to the subject. So if you for instance go into any you know, if you go into any sort of exam, for example, let's take strategic business reporting here. You go into strategic business reporting, you can see there are the two variants available, international and UK, and you have the blank workspace. So you can add the blank workspace depending on what exam you are doing, and there's a specific reason why we've done that, because different exams have different sort of, some of the exams are numerical, some of the exams are calculated, so some of the exams are theoretical, and some of them have both. And some of the exams like the audit, insurance, or taxation, we have a few sort of you know, predetermined performance. So based on what exam you're doing, you know, you can actually go in and assign yourself blank workspaces. So let's try and assign ourselves a blank workspace for, say, the SBR exam. So you go in, you click on the blank workspace, and you assign the blank workspace for SBR, and it will start appearing here under your blank workspaces. As you can see, you will see we have two blank workspaces added onto our system. One of them was recently added, and the other one was added slightly earlier. Now, you go into the blank workspaces, and you basically press start. Now, the blank workspace is a dedicated section of the resource which will mirror the exam platform, and what it is available for is basically to give you the exam platform for practicing purposes. So you might have exhausted, you know, everything that is available on the practice platform in form of the specimen exam, in form of past exam paper or practice test. you want to practice more questions. And again, it's going to be an ideal strategy for all of you, that are preparing for the switch from paper-based exams to computer-based exams, and you'll have a lot of question practice. Probably you are in your revision phase right now already, solving a lot of questions. What I would strongly recommend is you start solving these questions here using the blank workspaces. So you go in to the blank workspaces. You can literally use your revision kits. We've got the exam kits from our approved content providers. You can read the actual question through your exam kit, through your revision kit, and you can then use the blank workspaces basically to start solving your question here on the platform. If you look at it, the exhibits are going to be blank. There's going to be no sort of content here. These are all sort of blank. It is just blank because this bit of the section or this platform is just available for you to practice question. You click on the requirements again, nothing is available. What is going to be available here is all the functionality, which is the symbols, the highlight, the strike through, the calculator, the scratch pad for your rough working. Remember, this is another important aspect of your exam. Now, with remotely invigilated exams, you will not be allowed to have any sort of rough paper with you in order to do your rough work and your working. So it is important that you start using this scratch pad here and you start practicing how to use the scratch pad here so you can do all of your workings. Any workings that you do on your scratch pad, by the way, will not be submitted to the marker, so they won't be able to see anything here. So if you are doing any major workings, excuse me, we recommend that you use the word processor or the spreadsheet, wherever you're constructing your answer. So it's quite crucial that if there are important workings that the marker needs to see, or even to consider things like the own figure rule and give you marks for your professional judgment, you need to sort of do your important workings on the actual spreadsheet or the word processor that you're using. So the only two things that are going to be sort of usable here are your word processor and the spreadsheet platform, which is exactly where you will be constructing your answers when you do them, and all the tools here that are available for you. So flag for review, your navigator, your formula sheets, they will be available for you to use over here, depending again on which subject, which blank workspace you've selected. Navigator bar, pretty much we'll just have one question, because again this is not an actual exam, so you can only go into the word processor. Again, this is quite flexible, very user friendly. You can move it around, you can drag and drop, and you can start constructing your responses here. You see, if you've already noticed or if you've already experienced a computer-based exams in your applied skills, you will be quite familiar with the toolbars here and with all of these things that are available in terms of functionality and tools to you to help with constructing your answers. If not, they're still quite user friendly, and this is exactly the point of introducing the CBE practice platform to you, so that you can go in and you can start looking into practicing your answer. So just for illustrative purposes, I will just type something randomly here. Again, another important thing for you to note is once you've exited a blank workspace, you will not, anything that you've done here is not going to be saved. Every time you come back to the blank workspace, it's going to go blank again. So if you wanted to construct an answer, if you wanted to practice an answer or using the blank workspace, what you need to do is basically you need to save your answer. So we've done some scribbles here, and what we do is basically once you've finished doing your answer, and if you want to save your answer, you click here on the print button that comes up. You press print, and oops, I think something's not right here. But basically, when you press print here, a dialog box opens up where it'll let you sort of save this as a PDF. So when you press print here, you can actually save your answer as a PDF on your computer, which you can maybe use to mark yourself later, referring to the marking the slight technical glitch here. I can't seem to understand why this isn't opening the dialog box, but usually it would open up a dialog box, and you'd be able to save this as a PDF on your computer.
Hi, Ty. I
Likewise,
think it's just because you're sharing the screen at the minute, so it has a little bit of a conflict there. But yeah, I think just to reiterate, when you do the print function to everybody, PDF's fantastic. Speaking to the learning partners across the region and around the world, this is something that they actively encourage students to use on the practice platform. That print function allows them to mark your scripts, and if you aren't supported by an ALP, it'll also allow you to review your script against the actual model answers and the sample solutions for the specimens and past papers. Back over to you, Ty.
brilliant. Thank you, Alex. And just literally like going forward, you can also do the same for the spreadsheet functionality. You literally just go into the edit and you go into the print, which is the print option here at the bottom. It comes up for the spreadsheet. Lucky day for me. And you see,
amazing.
It's going to be available for you to print as a PDF here. What you can do is print as a PDF, save it in a dedicated section of your folder of your computer, and you can then share it with your tutor or use it to sort of mark your questions yourself. So this is it about the blank workspace. We've already gone through how you can assign tests to yourselves. Once you've completed using, apologies, I need to shut my Outlook, otherwise I keep receiving emails from everyone. Once you've completed using your blank workspace, you can just sort of click next and click end exam, and it'll ask you, are you sure you want to do that? And you say yes, yes, and everything that you might have done previously would all become blank again. Remember, very important, if you've constructed or if you've practiced your question, do save it as a PDF for your tutor to sort of mark it for you. Right, we've quickly had a look at what's available on the home tab. Another important thing that's available on the home tab is a functionality that helps you practice and save your tests to practice them offline. Let me show you how that is available. Again, we can use the same example for our AFM. You click on the AFM, you'd assign the AFM for yourself. If you say, for instance, wanted to practice this, but you knew you weren't having access to the internet, you can practice the AFM specimen or past exam even when you don't have access to the internet. All you have to do is click here, and instead of clicking start, you see, so what you need to do this when you are having internet connectivity, you click on these three dots here, and you see there's save for offline option. All you have to do is you click on this button. It should turn green, and it says paper was saved for offline use. So whenever you come back and whenever you start this exam, you won't have any problems with being able to access the content because it is already saved for you to use offline. Another tip is always whenever you download or assign any practice test to yourselves, ideally you should try and assign all of them to yourself, and a good practice would be to sort of go in and save them for offline, because you never know, whenever you have an opportunity, you might want to start solving some questions or doing some stuff that will help you getting better at this. So this is a quick whistle stop tour of the home tab. Let's quickly look at the marking functionality. Now, again, for illustrative purposes, I had done a bit of working on a previous SBL specimen exam, and I had completed it. I only went through one of the questions and one part of the requirement. I just wanted to take you through the self-marking functionality. If you don't have if you can't get your scripts marked by a tutor, you can pretty much mark them by yourself using the self-marking functionality. How you do that is you click on the mark tab. When you come here, within the self-marking screen, you'll be able to see all the different tests and all the different exams that you have attempted and finished off, and press end exam on. They will all start appearing here for you to be marking them. You click on self-mark, and it will load up your exam the way you've done it. Now you will see that this screen looks particularly busy, and again, I'm using a very small work laptop. I've got a laptop which is pretty much, I think, about 14 inches wide, the screen, and which is probably why some of these things are looking a bit cumbersome here on my screen. When you use a proper desktop, or you use a fairly sized laptop, an average size laptop, which is typically anything between 15 to 17 inches, this day and age, this should not be a problem. But if you look on the screen here, this is where you can see the marking guide as well as your sample answer. You can actually drag and drop, you can actually drag this to make it a bit more visible. You can zoom in and zoom out, again, depending on your personal preferences and how you would like to see your sample answer or your marking guide. You can switch between your sample answer and your marking guides using here. So on the left hand side, if you look at the marking tab, you'll see that you have the question marking guidelines here. So if I click here, it will bring me to the question marking guidelines. Again, you can zoom in, zoom out, depending on your personal preference in how you want to be able to see that. Or if you want to flick between the sample answer, you can click on the sample answer and it'll start appearing here as well. Marking guidelines and sample answer. This might be slightly slow for you right now because I'm sharing screen and I'm using an external webinar platform. But when you do it on your screen, when you're actually doing it, it's quite seamless. It's very the transition is very smooth, and you can actually flick between the sample answer and the marking guidelines quite effectively, very easily. For our purposes here, we don't say, for instance, we just want to refer to our exams here. You'll be able to see this is where so this is me just scribbling in a couple of things, copy pasting one of the sample answers, which is why it pretty much looks like the sample answer that you would have been able to see here. And then on the top, you'll see if you've used the spreadsheet to answer some parts of the question, it will appear here. If you've used any slides, because this is SBL specimen, you'll also have the option of using slides. They'll all start appearing here. For this particular illustration, I only used the word processor, and that's where my answer is appearing right now. You will have the exhibits alongside, as well as the tasks here on the side, just in case you wanted to refer back to an exhibit when you're self-marking your answer, or you wanted to see how some of the things have worked out, on what basis you answered some of the questions. They're still going to be available to you here. You can press on the tasks and the task screen will come up. So this was basically the first task that I've answered the question for. Task A, part 1, is the answer that I have given. If you wanted to go in and look at any of the exhibits, again, they'll be available here for you to look at. You can shut it, you can open it, however you want. This is all available for you. If you're fairly confident, you don't want to refer to once you've completed the exhibits, referring to the exhibits and the task, you can just sort of click that bar, and you can hide this just so you have some extra space for you to be able to sort of mark your answers. Fairly flexible, again, very intuitive, very sort of user-friendly platform. Now coming to the actual marking and how you can mark, always you'd be able to refer yourself to the marking guide or the sample answer, and based on the marking guide or based on the sample answer, you can allocate yourself mark. Your marking guide is a good way for you to be able to give you an account of how much marks can you go give yourself for a particular answer. Again, you'll see here all your different parts of the exams are listed here. So we had several tasks in the specimen exam here. You see there were in total 3 tasks. All the marks for the 3 tasks will be given here on the side. If you come right down here, there's a dedicated section for comments. You can type in your comments on your general performance here. Any feedback that you wanted to give yourself on this particular, or any feedback that the tutor marking your exam would want to give you, will all be sort of noted here. There is a dedicated section for professional marks. There are professional marks on SBL exam. Up to 20 marks are available as professional marks on the SBL exam. So under each question or under each task, you would see there's a dedicated section for professional marks. on your task A, part 1 and 2, you were assigned 4 up to 4 maximum professional marks. So you can give yourself the professional marks as well. Question number 1, the requirement was the maximum marks you could get on that requirement was 15. You can give yourself a score once you've finished marking your answer. Again, particularly one very interesting bit that I find on the marking tab here is the tick marking mode functionality, which we will just explore now. So it's available here on the top left hand side of your screen in the marking tab. You press tick marking mode, and as you see, pretty much these very intuitive, user-friendly buttons pop up over here. When you want to start marking your marking exercise, all you do is you click on this tick. You can actually even decide how many marks per tick do you want to assign yourself. For this instance, let's say we assign ourselves 1 mark per tick, and every time then you go in and mark your answer. Say for instance, you've read a valid point here, you give yourself 1 tick, and you see the mark will start populating on the side here. You find another valid point and it matches the sample answer or the marking guidelines, you can give yourself another tick. If you find a very strong point or a solid point that you've made in the answer, you can actually change how many marks you want to be able to give yourself per tick, and you give yourself a tick, and it starts giving you marks. I'm just going to put a few ticks randomly just so that you can see how you can basically get marks here. The other 3 buttons that you can see are basically own figure rule, points already given, and maximum marks. Own figure rule is obviously, if you've made a mistake, and more applicable to, your SPR or your AFM type exams, where you have calculations and when you've got numbers, and you basically, make a slight mistake or an error, and you type in a figure incorrectly, but you've obviously done your workings in a logical manner, then what you get is an own figure rule. So you get marks based on, you are only penalized for that 1 slight mistake. So for example, if you made a mistake in your net asset calculations in your consolidation, and then again, you only get penalized for that mistake, and everything else that follows through, you can get marks based on own figure rule. Your point already given is basically an indicator here. If you made a point which you might have previously used, then you can use that, or your tutor can use this to sort of say, well, you've already used this point earlier, and that's the only marks you can get on using this point. Maximum marks again is when you've written too much and you thought, well, I've already written enough to give myself maximum marks that I possibly could, and if you've written any additional points, basically that's not going to get you any additional marks. So you can put a max here that says, well, I've reached the maximum marks. Anything that I wrote in addition to all of that I wrote previously was not going to give me any additional marks. Another interesting functionality here is basically if you highlight a piece of text, you can actually sort of give yourselves note, or your tutors can give yourself notes saying, well, point could have been developed further, or you can give yourself sort of comments and notes and save them for you to review. So whenever you go back into the performance tab, or whenever you go back to review this particular test, you can actually go in and you can see whatever information you've saved, or whatever notes or feedback points your tutors might have saved might sort of would sort of start appearing here again. And like you see, the marks are populating with the number of ticks we've given. Once you've finished marking your answer, you can literally shut this and you can move on to the next question, and you can start marking the next question, which will then start appearing on your screen here. Because I've not solved the next answer, it will not show up here. But I just hoped that this was enough of an insight for you to be able to really give you a solid sort of view of what to expect when you're doing your marking. And you can mark yourself as well as you can submit your test for a professional tutor to mark you. Once you've concluded the marking exercise, or if you would have solved, more questions, they would start appearing here. So if I would have solved any further questions or any more parts or any more tasks of that question, they would have started appearing here. So you can see one, it's only because I've done the first task. If I would have done the second, the third, the fourth task, it would have started appearing here. And if I would have clicked next, 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 they would start populating on the screen here for me. Because I've only done one task here, I've finished marking it. I can exit by clicking this cross here. It'll ask me, you have chosen to finish your marking. Are you sure? You won't be able to return. So once you've said yes, you are sure, you will not be able to come back to this test to remark. This will then start appearing on your performance section, where you go in and you can see basically what were the mistakes you made when you marked yourself on this test previously. So you press yes, and it saves your results under the results tab. Now, because I have a test account here and I'm not an actual student account here, holder here, my sort of whatever tests I do and I mark are not sort of appearing under the results dashboards. But basically, as you go on and as you start doing more and more tests, they'll start, and you mark them or your tutor marks them for you, they will start populating under this dashboard, under the results and the performance dashboard, which will basically start showing you how your performance has been and what you can learn from that. Now, I have a very, very short video here. It's basically a very lengthy video, but I'd like to show you this video, which will give you some amount of insight on how your basically your performance and your results tab works. So let me just put the video on here for you quickly. And Alex, if you can just give me a shout on whether you can see the video.
Yeah, it's just loading now, my friend.
All right. Apologies, everyone. There's been a slight technical error, I think, in that video. We were trying to get to the last 5 minutes of it, but it seems like we can't do that without going through the 30 minutes, entire 30 minutes of the video. So what we will do is we will send across a link to this video in the follow-up com when we send it out to you, and you'd be able to log in, look at the various functionalities. So everything that I've spoken to you about right now is all also within that video, which is actually done by James Patrick, who's one of our colleagues from the professional education team. And particularly if you don't want to see the entire 30-35 minute video, definitely look at the last 5 or 7 minutes, and it'll show you how your results tab as well as your performance tab gives you information and gives you the kind of data that can help you understand your performances better. So let's move on. I hope you found the demonstration useful, and we've gone through various functionalities and different things on the practice platform that are available for you to use. I mean, I would really like to stress and emphasize on the point here that it's very important that you start using the CBE practice platform, because that's the only way you'll be able to become more and more hands-on, more and more confident with your exam practice, with everything that you do, and it'll help you sort of be more efficient, using the scratchpad functionality, using the blank workspace, or even if it is solving the specimen exams or the past exam papers or practice tests that are available on the platform. It's a very important resource, it's a very important tool, and by all means try and make the most of what is available to you. With this, I will now hand over to my colleague Alex, who will kindly take you through the, a walkthrough. We'll give you a walkthrough of one of the, specimen exams, just so you can see how, the actual exam will look, and the platform, how it's going to look and feel. Just bear with us one second while I manage to pass on the baton to him and make Alex the presenter. Alex, my friend, it's over to you now.
Thank you very much. I really like that analogy you used there, passing the baton. So for those who don't know me, my name is Alexander Leach, and I work in the education team with Tahir and the rest of the guys in the Middle East office, but I'm currently in the UK. I specialise in strategic business leader, as well as much of the strategic professional level of the qualification. And I'm going to spend just a little bit of time, maybe just around 15 minutes, going through an exam, showing you how to access the specimen exams and how to use it on the practice platform. So I'm going to share my screen. I'm probably going to turn off the webcam as well, just because it makes it a little bit easier just to sort of navigate. Ty, when I do share the screen and I get onto the Study Support Resources website, just give me this sort of thumbs up or a quick yes, I can see that, so I know everything's working.
I can see it on already, Alex. Yep.
Oh, wonderful. Tell me if it's on now. Sorry, I think I just double clicked away from it.
Yep.
There we go. Right. So while I do this as well, just as a little sidebar for while it loads up, it's been great to see you all interacting on the question and answers panel. And I've been going through and answering things as we've gone along. I've also been taking some notes. So myself and Tahir will address a lot of your questions collectively towards the end. So do keep them coming in, and we'll keep answering them as we go along while we can. So just to start off with this specimen exam walkthrough, the first thing to start off with is to go to the Study Support Resources website. It's an amazing website, honestly, absolutely fantastic, free resources available to you as ACCA students, and you've got a whole host on there ranging from past exams, examiners' articles, even, really great videos and useful webinar links as well. So if you haven't been on this yet, make sure you do. To access a particular paper, you click on the qualification. Now, as I say, I specialise in SPL, so I'll naturally lean myself towards this paper. You would tab down to the bottom of the actual web page, and you go to the Learning and Revision Resources. And here you would click on CBE Question Practice, so the ACCA Practice Platform. And it gives you some information about the practice platform, how to use it, and obviously Tahir's shown you how to create a login on the actual external website, which is called TestReach. Now, luckily for myself and Tahir, we already have done all that administration. So when I click on this, fingers crossed, I'm going to click on Specimen Exam 2. We can now see my screen loading up on the website called TestReach. And here we have basically the exam itself, but in the computer-based format. Now, I think this is absolutely fantastic. And one of the things that Tahir has advocated, and I will also stress, is the need to get familiar with this platform, the practice platform, and get familiar with doing lots of question practice on it. So I really liked what you said, Tahir, about although if you do have the published exam kits, for example, you can actually use a blank sheet to do the practice on as well, which I think is great. Now, in the advantage of using the ACCA specimen and practice tests is they're already preloaded. So in here, we're going to be looking at specimen exam 2, but I'm really just going to focus on how to use it and some of the key functionalities. So this does replicate the real exam, and it is extremely important that you do practice this to time. Now, many of you will be aware that the Strategic Business Leader exam is a 4-hour exam. So if I were you, if you were sitting SPL or any other exams, having said that, which are often 3 hours and 15 minutes, you should really do this to time. You can tab along, so you can go through to the next function, and I'm going to talk through the instructions because it gives us a nice bit of structure to the conversation. So the general instructions is that the real exam will start actually within 10 minutes of you getting onto this page. So when you get the real exam, you have 10 minutes to review these instructions. Now, the advantage you guys have is that you will already understand what the workspace looks like and so on and so forth, because you'll have been on the practice platform and gone through it so many times that it'll be second nature to you. So you actually get that 10 minutes probably just to relax a little bit, or try to relax, manage with a bit of breathing, and get your head in the zone for the exam. The workspace itself, particularly for SPL, but again, it replicates over to the other strategic professional exams. In this instance, we have a case study. We have exhibits and we have tasks and requirements, and then the response options include a word processor, a spreadsheet, and or slides for presentations. Now, one caveat I will add is that for the other strategic professional exams, it is fractionally different in that you wouldn't have the same exhibits and you wouldn't have slide options. I'll talk through the functionality as we go along. So the instructions of the navigation tab. So here you can go, backwards and forwards, so next and previous. There's also a flag for review section, which is useful for those students who maybe want to flag something and come back to it later. As well as help and a calculator. Now, Tahir really did valiantly sort of stress the fact that you've got the spreadsheet functionality here. So the need for a calculator is slightly less, although I would massively stress that you do need a calculator. You can have one on screen, but the next question I often get, so just to preempt it, is that you are allowed to bring in and use your own calculator so long as it meets the standard ACCA requirements. Moving on, so away from this little section, the workings and scratch pad. Now, this is an innovation that I absolutely love. And I think it comes from my days as a tutor and helping students and the need to plan your answers, particularly on SPL and the strategic professional level, because planning really does make a significant difference. One thing to add is that you can do your notes and workings in here. You can copy and paste sections into the scratch pad, and I'll show you how that works. But just a small point, it's important to note that this is not marked. So whether it's for a test, a mock, so therefore when you send it into a learning partner or somebody who's going to be doing the marking for you, or whether it's the real exam, anything in your scratch pad is pretty much like when we used to scribble on the paper. So bear in mind, if you want to achieve marks for things, they need to go into the actual word processing document and the spreadsheet, and also the power or the points for the presentation slides as well. So just a caveat, just to put that in a little bit, scratch pads are not marked. You can also input currency symbols, which are really useful given in this part of the region, we might be doing an exam in dollars, pounds, percentage signs are also within there. And one just last little point around the navigation screen, although it's not massively needed in this particular exam, it's there for you as well. Just before we get stuck into the actual exam itself, there is a review of the exam as well as an item review section. And when you go to the end of your exam, you click End Exam in the bottom right-hand corner, and then that will take you to your review screen. Now, I do talk about the time because in the real exam, obviously, it will be timed. But on your test reach platform, it's not timed at this moment. So what I would stress is making sure that you stick to the time of your exams, really build that exam technique and exam practice, because the time is one of the key sort of barriers for many students. And unlike with the paper exams, where you might have flicked between them, here you've got to get used to that exam technique, moving through the actual requirements, using the word processor, using the spreadsheets, and therefore if you do run out of time in your exam, it will automatically shut your exam, and so it'll be finished. Whereas here you might lose track of time. So time management is as ever key, and keeping and being strict to that time is extremely important for building your competencies and ultimately making sure you are a success. One last point before we get stuck into the actual platform. So important points to note between the differences in the functionality of the computer-based exam practice platform and the live exam itself. So the first point being the PDF exhibit tools look slightly different, and it's not a big deal. It's something that I've done plenty of practice on myself, and it doesn't really make a huge difference. It's just slightly aesthetic. In fact, most of these differences are. Selecting the text in the PDF. To do that in the live exam, you have to use something called a text tool, which is really easy. You just click on that little sort of eye with a text symbol, and then you can select the text, which leads quite nicely into the displaying of the selected text in the PDF exhibits, which has slight different, again, it's just aesthetics between shading and graying out. The last and final point, again, just a pretty sort of simple, is the find tool in the PDF exhibits differs slightly in the computer-based exam practice platform versus the real exam. But again, what a fantastic tool to be able to use a find function in either the practice or your real exam. So when I click next, this gives me a summary of the exam, and this would be fit for whichever exam paper you're doing. I'm doing SBL, but again, if you're doing SBR or any of the other options, you know, this will be specific to that exam. There's one case study in SBL, 100 marks available, and I could talk for days about it, but I'm conscious of time, so I'll make sure that I can click start the exam itself. So the first thing I would do when you get into the test reach onto an actual exam is familiarize yourself with the platform. And it's probably quite a nice thing to do is to explore the toolbar along the top. So the symbols are here, and it ranges from pounds, euros, dollars, euros, pounds, and other currencies as we go along. There is the highlight function, which we have 4 different colors, and also the ability to remove the highlight. There is a strike through function, which I'll show you how that works. The on-screen calculator, which is basically just a very simplistic scientific calculator. You can use that if you want to get used to it, or you can use your ACCA approved calculator. And then the key thing here is the scratch pad itself, which is where you would do a lot of copy and pasting and write in your plans, because remember, you need to plan your answers as we go along. It's probably also really valuable for you to spend some time now, whether this is just doing practice to get used to the platform itself, is actually to review the tasks, so how they come up on screen. And you can see that you can drag and sort of reshape the requirements themselves to make them fit on your screen. And we'll talk about how to lay your screen out very shortly. You can also open up your exhibits as well. So if we go on to this exhibit here, this is an overview. So this is exhibit 1, and this is in a nice sort of PDF format. And I'll show you again how to highlight things. We can close all tabs as well along the top, which is really useful if you want to just get back to the home page. We also have the different response options. So we have a word processor, which is very similar to that of a standard word processor. So you can type into here, and then you can create the headings and structure. And again, I'll show you how to simplistically structure an answer. You can go through this in your own time as well. We've got a spreadsheet function as well, which is very similar to that of Excel, more of a sort of basic functionality, but having worked with many different sort of online examination software, I have to say this is the best I've ever seen. And we've also got, which I really enjoy, the slide functions, which give you an outlet to create slides, very much like you would in a PowerPoint presentation, with notes underneath that you would actually fit to the requirement itself. So that's a simple sort of familiarization, and I appreciate that was a bit of a whistle-stop tour, but I will spend some time now just showing you how to maybe use the scratch pad, also the exhibits and the actual response options themselves. Tahir, am I going to be able to do that in the next 5 minutes? Am I right to steal a little bit of time?
Yes, absolutely, Alex. Yep.
Fantastic. So we will start with the scratch pad. So one of the key things is to obviously lay your screen out in a way that you feel comfortable. And I like having my scratch pad sort of set up to the side. And I'm going to actually have a look at maybe some of the sort of notes. So maybe I'll start off with the newspaper report. So I'm reading through this particular exhibit, and I've already done a read of the requirements. So I'm having a look and I'm thinking, right, what's interesting? Well, maybe, hypothetically speaking, you really like the look of, this particular sort of name of the actual report itself. So you could jot a few things in here. So exhibit 1 or exhibit 3, even in this instance, and the name of, oh, there we go. So you just type in it like you would any processing, and you can use it just as a bit of a sort of notes page dump. And then as you read through this, you find and you pull out some of the key elements that you quite like the look of, that are pertinent to the requirements that you're doing. So it's relatively straightforward. Now, if I just close this down in itself and I leave the scratch pad open, I can then look at other exhibits. So maybe I'm now moving on and I'm going to have a look at this outline of a personal specification. And I'm looking at this particular element here, and I think, right, I'm going to actually highlight this because this first point is really important. So I'm going to pick pink, and if I just click on here, click pink, hopefully that'll work. Oh, that's what they say, never do live TV or work with children, and it's there we go. So we've highlighted the first part here, and now when I go through this particular exhibit, when I'm doing my planning, I know that that's an important part. So the highlight function is really easy to use as well. When dealing with word processing, so I'll just close down. And remember, one of the key things to do is keep your keep your screen quite tidy. Get used to having a tidy screen, because what's quite good is, although I've closed that particular exhibit, you pop back up and your notes and your highlights are still on there. So if I then put a strike through, hopefully this one will work on here. Yeah, there we go. I can now say, well, maybe that's not relevant. So again, just showing you the functionality. So that will still remain there as I go along. If I show you maybe on a word processor, how to necessarily go about structuring an answer very briefly. So if I just close down my scratch pad, and remember, I can open up the scratch pad again, and I can actually find my notes within it. I'm going to drag this down to sort of cover up half the screen. And I'm going to just show you maybe how to potentially structure one of your requirements. So if I just highlight this requirement here, this is task 1A, and I copy this, and then I move that over to the side. Or maybe I'll just close it down. That's the thing. There we go. And I just open up my word processor and I paste that in. That allows the examiner to know which requirement you're doing. So you've pasted in the actual requirement itself, and then underneath you can start your answer. So for this one, it's looking for a briefing paper. So I'll type in briefing paper, maybe give myself a capital P. Underneath, I'll put for the attention of, and who's this for the attention of? It's for the Railco Trust Board. And everybody, you know, getting used to the professionalism that you would need to prepare in the real world. Well, a briefing paper would require the actual title. Now, the title is actually really very much given to you in the requirement itself. So if I just copy this here, give a capital T, and then I'll just maybe put an underline, so that's my title, and away we go. Now I can start my answer. So A, B, C, D, and so on and so forth. And this is where I now create my answer, and I would do that with subsections, so subheadings, structure. Oh, if I could spell, that would be good. And then some form of maybe closing argument or conclusion or summary. Now that's just a quick brief sort of look at how the word processor works. Let's take a moment now to have a look at how the spreadsheet works. So I will close all, and bear in mind that'll still be there when I come back. So when I start to do another requirement, I would continue to tap down in the word processor and start with task 2 perhaps, copy the task in, illustrate to the examiner that that is task 2, so by putting task 2 there, and so on and so forth. So the spreadsheet is a pretty straightforward response option, and it's fantastic in my opinion. I really like it. And what's great, and one of the questions that I've seen pop up in the question panel already, is around formulae. Now you can do that by actually, you know, inputting the requirements. So if I just put in some basic sums, 25, I appreciate there might be a slight lag, and 24, and then I don't know, 34, and then I want to do a standard sum formula. I can do so very much like this. Now I appreciate you might not want to do this, but again, you know, it's just showing you, and you should really be looking to get familiar with these sort of things, get used to using the sums formulas that you would use on most spreadsheets. And then the great thing is that if you do use the spreadsheet to do your calculations, you can leave them within the Excel, within the spreadsheet functionality, and then reference them within the word processing. So I know full well that within these tasks, there are requirements that require you to do some calculations. So you could say, you know, C calculation 1 or C working 2 and so on and so forth, and reference that. If I just close through, and the last one I'll show you is how the slides work. Now I know full well that task 3 asks you to produce slides, very much like you would if you were to ask to do a presentation within any professional circumstance. So you would reference this with maybe slide 1, and then I know this actual question's on talent management, and you could put some bullet points in here, maybe about what talent management is. And so on and so forth. You might want another heading. And here you could talk about the need to manage talent, and there's that old mantra, you know, attract, retain, and motivate. And then underneath, once you've sort of laid your slide out maybe a little bit sort of more professionally, you then put the notes within here, and these would be what the speaker's notes would be. And these would be written in continuous prose in a way in which people would want to read them out and present. Now that was very much a whistle-stop tour of how to use the platform, laying out your exhibits, looking at the tasks, copying and pasting, inputting, highlights, symbols, strike-throughs, a calculator, and again, just emphasizing the scratch pad. Just before I hand back over to Tyra, and I appreciate, I've managed to sort of keep it as concise as possible, some closing advice for managing your workspace, which we're going to be looking at next, but I think it's quite pertinent here, is that you only want to have the windows open that you need. You want to set place on your screen for each window and never really close the toolbar. And you can always use this close all function, which allows you to then get back to the main screen, open up, for example, where you've input your answer and continue to go through the structure. One last final point, then it's back to you, Tahir, is practice. Make sure you practice on the practice platform, practice as much as possible because it will make perfect, whether it's your approach or just getting used to using the functionalities. It's a really innovative, fantastic exam resource, and I wish you all the best of luck come your exam in September. Tahir, back over to you.
Thank you, Alex. And I've just managed to make myself presenter again. And I'm hoping that has been successful.
Yes, it has.
Well, if you can see my slides up again.
Yeah, they're up. They're up.
Okay, brilliant. Thanks for the shout. Yeah, so thanks a lot, Alex, for the excellent sort of tour. I personally, I think it was a good illustrative example of how students can manage their their screen, their workspace, and setting up example. And again, very much reiterating the importance around exam practice. The only way you can get perfect by is by doing practice, and you've got to put in enough practicing so that you're very confident. All of this becomes very intuitive, very much user friendly. You don't need to struggle to look for, okay, where can I find this? I know this function was somewhere on the exam. When you're actually sitting on the day of the exam, you should be confident enough to know what you're doing with the actual exam, and what's going on, where you can find a certain functionality, where you can find a certain tool, and how that goes in. Now, with this bit, we would like to sort of just show you a quick video that our professional executive teams have produced around how to manage, and some of what Alex has already sort of mentioned in his bit earlier will be reflected, but just a good video for you to see how to manage your strategic professional exam workspace more effectively before we dive into the final action points. So bear with me 1 second while I load up the video. And Right, brilliant. I think a lot of what Lucy, who again is one of our colleagues from the professional education team, who I think was the voice behind that video, has stemmed from what Alex has also just mentioned. So just really reiterating some of those points, exam practice is quite important. We can't stress enough on it. And really, you need to understand again as students what has changed. There is not a major sort of moment. The only thing that has changed is how you sort of do your actual exam. Everything remains the same. Your exam sort of learning outcomes, whatever you studied during your tuition phase, your revision phase, it's all the same. The only thing that needs changing now is your question practice strategy and how you practice, or how you rather incorporate the computer-based element into your question practicing. And that's really key, in order for you to be able to sort of be successful at your exam. So use the CBE practice platform and solve as many questions as you possibly can using it. Couple of action points and summary points for the session before we move into the Q&A. Make sure you've gone into the dedicated SPCB resources and saw all of them. There's a whole host of webinars, videos, a lot of things available for you before you actually sit your exam. The video that you just saw right now by the professional education team, there's loads of similar videos available for you to see. They're all again available on the ACCA's website. We will be sending you links as well that can directly guide you to the relevant website, relevant sort of source of that resource. So get familiar with the exam platform, very, very important. Use the CBE practice platform. We cannot stress enough on this. Review the guidance on what needs to be done before the day of the exam, during the exam. Run the exam or system check and test again, just to make sure nothing has changed from when you've done that previously. Make sure that your exam environment is conducive to sort of exam friendly, and it's secured, nobody gets access to it, and you can basically successfully be able to sit your remotely invigilated exam. Once you've made sure you've gone through all of these points, just sit back, relax, and do your exams. Put in your best, and leave the rest to faith, and it'll all work out. Now, just before we end today, I would like to now open this up for Q&A. So Alex has kindly agreed, and I've already seen on the questions section, there's been lots of questions coming in, and Alex has also freely sort of replying to some of those questions. So Alex, any interesting questions, or any questions? For all questions are interesting, but any key questions that we can address for the interest of the class?
Great stuff. So what I've done, Tahir, is obviously, I've gone through and answered people specifically, but I've took note of some themes as we've gone along, because I think, that'll help the audience. And one of them, actually, which I think is something very relevant given our region, was around autocorrect and spelling. And I think, having taught in the region and taught many students, I completely understand the anxiety of English being an additional language for many people. So Tahir, what's our advice for students who maybe aren't fantastic at spelling and maybe worry a little bit about it?
My advice is they're pretty much the same as me. I was terrible at my spelling when I did my ACCA exams. I still think autocorrect and spell check are like my best friends when I'm typing an email, but you might not be penalized, so you won't definitely be penalized for having incorrect spellings or grammatical errors, but certainly obviously try and avoid such mistakes, because remember, when you're typing an answer, especially if it's an advanced audit exam, or depending on what exam you have, your spellings, the way you construct things, will sort of set an impression in the mind of the marker. Having said that, again, you won't definitely be penalized if there's a certain spelling that if you misspelled something, but do sort of try and pay attention to it. You don't necessarily have to stress time or waste time going through reviewing your answer and making sure that your spellings are correct, but yeah, just be a bit vigilant around it.
Yeah, no, I think that's great advice. Thank you, Tahir. One of the other trends I've seen in the question panel is around spreadsheets and formula. Now, hopefully I illustrated very basically how the formula works, but Tahir, what's your experience of this with maybe more complex formulas and how they sort of work across the board of the spreadsheet?
So complex formulas can also work because this is a normal spreadsheet functionality, and if you know how to use complex formulas, you can definitely, benefit from being able to sort of take advantage of them. However, if you don't, or you're one of those that doesn't have, advanced level knowledge, and I say advanced level knowledge because it is advanced level knowledge. If you don't have that level of knowledge, then it's nothing for you to worry about. You can still pretty much do the calculations in the same way as you did it using a scientific calculator, or doing the basic formulas like adding, subtracting, and building your answers. You can still pretty much answer your question. It's not a huge disadvantage, but it definitely is an advantage if you're able to do your complex formulas. So they're not built into the platform, but if you know how to use them, or you've still got time, there are dedicated videos on YouTube where you've got people explaining how you can do your working capital, or an IRR calculation using a complex formula. But again, don't beat yourself up on it. It's not something that's necessary. It's not a must. Only a few handful of people would probably be able to do this professionally. Everybody else sort of tends to end up doing the old-fashioned way, where they do the basic formulas, they use the addition, multiplication, percentage functions, and then they pretty much do everything else as a formal calculation.
Okay, so two other themes, and I'll just sort of highlight them to you. First one is around marking, Ty, so I'll come on to that in a second. And the other one is auto saving of your responses. So the one around marking is asking, can they do a question at a time and then get it marked, or they do have to do the full exam and then do the marking functionality? And the question around the auto save, what if I want to come back to the actual practice platform after I've had a go at a requirement? Will it still be there?
So in terms of the marking functionality, you only get to do the exam. For instance, if you did the SBL specimen exam 1, you would necessarily have to complete the entire specimen, and then when you press end exam, that will mean it will then move from your assigned material into your marking side. It will not come into your marking side unless you've ended the actual specimen exam. And once you've marked it, then it's available for you to sort of redo. So basically, unfortunately, you won't be able to sort of do one task and then sort of end it. In theory, you can, if you wanted to do just the first task, mark yourself and end your exam, mark yourself, give yourself marking, submit it, and finish it off, because you can again come back, you can reassign the SBL specimen exam 1 to yourself, and you can start doing the second task or the third task, and you can fairly do that. But if you wanted to do it in the same sort of same set, if you wanted to just do your section 1 or your task 1, answer it, go back and mark, and then go back and do your task 2, answer it, mark it, that won't be possible. You'll have to, if you wanted to mark everything together, you'd have to answer everything together. If you wanted to do individual tasks separately, you can do that, which will mean if you've finished your task 1, you've marked it, you've answered it, you've marked it, you've submitted it, that's it, it's done. When you download your specimen exam 1 again, your task 1 will appear blank. It will not have the answer that you previously populated.
Right, thank you very much, Ty. There's a couple of questions coming in around time. Will the timing of my exam be on screen in the live exam? I would assume that is a yes, Ty.
Yes, there is an on-screen timer that will appear somewhere on the top left-hand side or the right-hand side of your screen, or maybe even the bottom. I'm not too sure. I think it's there, definitely there on some part of your screen. It will be running down, so it's a counting down timer. Some people find it stressful to have the timer in front of them. So there is also the functionality of hiding and sort of keeping it appeared, keeping it seen on the exam platform. So there's different functionality, but yes, you will be able to see the time anyway.
There's been a few questions throughout the last sort of hour and a half, Tahi, around the specifications for these exams, be that laptop screen size or be that ProctorU add-ons. I've been advising students to follow our frequently asked questions and our resources website on remote invigilation, and also to watch back our previous webinar showing the technical specs. Is there any sort of key highlights with just a sort of 1 minute sort of overview that you could give the students while we're on live now?
Really, in terms of the technical specs, is best to refer on to the technical specifications document that's available on the website. Again, under your exam section, we have already sent all of the important links to you on an email. Ideally, the size of the screen should. Recommendation is the bigger the size of the screen, the better it is. Just from an exam friendliness perspective, but that's not a limitation as long as you're comfortable with your screen size or with your particular laptop or desktop that you're using. It's not a mandatory, it's not a must, but just a best practice approach. The bigger the screen size, the better it is. And any sort of technical specifications, any detail or any questions around tech specs, you can definitely refer into the guidance that Alex has highlighted.
Yeah, brilliant. And there's a few questions asking around specific exams now, Ty. So I've been directing students to the specific exams resources that we've got our tutor experts in doing the webinars over the next few weeks. So I've been sending those links. So for everybody who hasn't seen that, there is a multi-registration link on the chat panel. You can actually just enroll to the particular exam that you are sitting for September. So whether that's tax or whether that's SBL, the professional education team have been resourcing and bringing expert tutors to show you how to use it on specific exams. Ty, if you have a little look at the question panel now, if you've got it to hand, I appreciate you probably giving a glance. There's been some really good questions as we've gone along, and now they're getting even more sort of technical about maybe time management. But one of the other ones was around, a guide on how to start the exam on another day. So I think we've got a lot of appetite here to be hosting, even more sort of resources and support as we go along. So I think, is there anything else you've seen in the question panel that I've not maybe pulled out for you?
I am actually just trying to have a quick glance through the questions, Alex, as we speak. And pretty much, yeah, they're along the themes of what you've said. Please, can you advise the best way to manage time for each exam in case the time count does not appear in the platform? Well, the timer will appear, in the platform, but it's important to stick to the timing. The 1.8 minute per mark rule that we generally go by. You've only got 3 hours and 4 hours for your SBL exam. That's pretty much important. Is there a software or add-ons that need to be downloaded prior to the exam? There is an add-on as well as a software, which will be the remotely invigilation software. It's on the Pearson VUE platform. You will be advised to download that. ProctorU again is not the add-on. ProctorU is the remotely invigilated partner for on-demand exams. Our remotely invigilating partner for session-based exams is Pearson VUE, and this is the platform that we host our exams on. So ProctorU is different and Pearson VUE is different. The requirements are different. The specifications are different. You might want to really go in and check on the session-based specifications in terms of what softwares. And when you do the test, you will get an insight of how the platform is going to look like. What ID? Yeah, there's a question around what ID can we show to the invigilator before the exam. It has to be a recognized ID. So generally, it would be your passport or your national ID. So here in the UAE, we all have our own Emirates IDs. So that's also an applicable ID that you can show to your invigilator. If not, you can definitely show your passport. It should be something that can confirm to your invigilator that you're the same person of the name that you've seen, and your details are matching. They will obviously have all of these details on their screen. Yeah, I think, Alex, that's pretty much it. Do we need a separate microphone and headphone to talk to the invigilator? Yes, you will be able to interact with the invigilator on a chat functionality. So there's going to be a chat bot which the invigilator will be using to sort of interact with you. But you will obviously need a microphone built into your laptop because the remote invigilation software is based on AI systems, and in order for it to pick up external sounds and external sort of vibrations and noises, it needs to have a microphone. If your system doesn't have a microphone, your laptop or your computer will not clear the system test, and if it doesn't clear the system test, unfortunately you won't be able to take the exam. So we've said this previously, and we're saying this once again. Please make sure that your your laptop or your desktop, you've ran a system test on it right now. If not, and you've already booked your exam, you need to make sure that you're making alternative arrangements. So beg, borrow, steal, get somebody else's laptop or get somebody else's desktop. It could be your brothers, your sisters, your fathers, your mothers, anybody's, but make sure that you have a relevant system that you can use to do your exam. You've just got to borrow it for a couple of hours on the day of the exam, as well as a couple of minutes when you're running your system check. So please make sure that you've done your system check before you actually go and sit the exam, to avoid any disappointments on the day of the exam. Do we need to download Pearson View? Yes, it's going to be an add-on. When you do your system checks, you will be asked to download those add-ons and all of that. So you don't need to really worry about all of this right now. Follow the guidance documents on our website. All the information is available on it, and it will tell you how you can download the add-ons. Once you've done the system checks, those add-ons will automatically be downloaded onto your system. You will all receive information. All of this information will be sent to you on an email, so don't worry about what happens on the day of the exam. You will get an email with a link which will say click here. It will prompt you to the website. It'll ask you to download all the relevant softwares and everything. So don't worry about all of these things right now. I think all you should be focusing on, or rather thinking about, is how you prepare yourself for the exam. What's going to happen on the actual day of the exam will all be sent to you on an email with all the proper instructions and all of it. Right, Alex, I think that is pretty much it for the session today. If you've got any more questions, you know where to reach us. You can send us an email on educationme@accaglobal.com, or alternatively, you can also get in touch with our Connect team, which is going to give you a much more faster response on the chat functionality. There's a dedicated chat bot on our ACCA website, which will link you into the experts, and they will be able to give you a faster response. But thanks for watching today. Again, it's all about you've taken the bold step. You've taken the step towards doing your exams, and it's now up to you to decide how you practice for it, how you prepare yourself for it. We've given you all the ammunition that you necessarily need to sort of fire off and go on a spree with practicing your exams, with doing everything that you possibly can in order to make sure that you're quite confident with your exam. So it's all up to you now how you take it from here up until your exam day. You've got slightly over 2 weeks for the actual exam. We're here obviously to support you with anything else that you need in terms of being able to do your exam successfully. We've done everything we possibly could to ensure that we've made these exams available to you. Now it is absolutely up to you how you make use of all of these resources. Remember, we will be sending out all of these important information as well as the slide deck to you in a short while. So please make sure you've referred to everything. Please make sure you've done enough practicing. Thanks for watching today, and good luck. Any last words from Alex?
Thank you ever so much, Tahir. No, just to reiterate, I think the important thing for everyone to do now is, if you haven't gone onto the Study Support Resources website, do. If you haven't signed up for the webinars following this, make sure you do. And also make sure you go onto the practice platform, do lots of question practice over the next few weeks. It really will pay dividends when it comes to the real exam. Try not to get too hung up on the small things, the technicalities. When it gets to the day, you'll log onto your laptop, do your exam. Those 3 hours and 15 minutes or 4 hours will fly by, and we'll see some fantastic results come October. Best of luck to everyone, and I'll hopefully see you all very soon. Take care.
Yep. Good luck, everyone. Thank you. Take care. Bye.